Pagers and walkie-talkies are now banned on all aircraft in Lebanon after 2 days of coordinated attacks targeting communication devices. At least 32 people have been killed since Tuesday, including 28 Hezbollah members and 2 children. 20 were killed on Wednesday, the worst day in Lebanon since Israel's war in Gaza began nearly a year ago. Walkie-talkies blew up in Beirut and other parts of the country as people were mourning victims from the day before. On Tuesday, pagers exploded simultaneously across the country. 12 people were killed and nearly 3,000 have been injured. The scale of the attacks has overwhelmed hospital emergency rooms. Doctors say many of their patients have serious injuries to their eyes and their limbs. Hezbollah and Lebanon's government are blaming Israel, but the Israeli government has so far remained silent. But there is increasing fear on the streets of Lebanon.
Can we expect any good from Israel? Children are being killed. Their parents had small devices and they are detonated. Of course we're scared. My children, my siblings' children, all of us. Who can feel safe in the situation? We have 5,000 injured in just 2 days. This isn't a small matter. It's war.
I'm scared of my mobile phone. I carry it, but I'm afraid of it. This has become an international issue now. Israel and the US are behind these incidents, and we're the victims caught in the middle.
Hashem reports from Tyre in southern Lebanon on how the latest attacks unfolded.
Grief turned to fear in a matter of seconds. Crowds had gathered for the funeral of a child and members of Hezbollah, when hundreds of mourners were surprised by an explosion. Hundreds of communication devices burst simultaneously across Lebanon, killing several, injuring hundreds, among them civilians.
Yes, there are indeed many injuries, and today's incidents involved larger and bigger devices causing more damage. Therefore, the data might indicate an increase. We've observed a significant number of injuries. However, those who sustained serious injuries were severely affected, which raises our concern about a potential rise in the number of deaths.
It's the second wave of coordinated attacks on communication devices in the country in 2 days.
I did not expect what happened today. Things are repeating all over again. We had some devices here that we believed were 100% safe. But out of caution, we removed them from the store because we got worried. Our enemy is a traitor. May God give us peace. That's all we can say.
The Lebanese group did not comment on Wednesday's attacks, but blamed Israel for detonating hundreds of pagers the day before. Hezbollah officials called this a new phase in regional tensions and warned of reprisal.
This aggression inevitably has its own punishment. It has its own retribution. This punishment will come, God willing.
Doctors say hundreds of patients are in critical condition with deep explosion-related wounds, and now more are on the way.
Since yesterday, it's been really a very busy and stressful time for us. So we received more than 150 patients in a record time of less than 3 hours. Most of them have injuries to their face, including the eyes, the nose, and the facial bones, in addition to injuries to the hands and fingers, and to the waist and lower abdomen.
United in shock and grief, and fearful of an all-out war with Israel, people in Beirut and Sidon chose solidarity, showing up in numbers to donate blood for the injured.
I think that donating blood is the least we can do under these circumstances, and God heal all the injured.
There are fears medical facilities could also be targeted. Lebanese soldiers have found explosives and carried out controlled explosions, including one found in an ambulance outside a hospital in Beirut. Medical staff say they regularly use pagers and walkie-talkies to perform their duties.
Traumatized Lebanese citizens are desperately seeking answers. A second wave of attacks on communication devices has left them uncertain about what might happen. They're waiting to hear from Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah, who is expected to speak on Thursday. Hashem, Al Jazeera, Tyre, southern Lebanon.
Zeina Khodr joining us now from Beirut. So the question, of course, is how is Hezbollah likely to respond, Zeina?
Well, in a few hours, Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah is expected to address the current situation. Hezbollah has already said that it will respond to those explosions and it will be a punishment. That was the word that they used. Israel will be punished. Hezbollah is in a very difficult position. It is a difficult balancing act because this is a group that has been trying to avoid a widening, if you like, of this conflict, not to give Israel an excuse. This is what officials have said, an excuse to launch a wider confrontation. But if Hezbollah does not hit hard, then it will not restore deterrence. That means Israel will continue to cross red lines. And Israel has crossed red lines in this ongoing confrontation. Yes, there is an unwritten agreement, if you like, where both sides have been sticking to military targets. But what we saw over the past 48 hours, these explosions, pagers, walkie-talkies exploding, causing chaos and panic, not just in Beirut, but across the country. And Hezbollah losing up to 33 men in 48 hours. Yes, a few of them were civilians, but the majority were members of Hezbollah. Now that is a big blow. So what will Nasrallah do to restore this deterrence? And people are concerned and they are waiting to hear from him later today.
Zeina, stay with me for a moment. Israeli media is reporting that a number of people have been injured after being targeted by 2 anti-tank missiles in Upper Galilee in northern Israel. The Israeli army sent a military helicopter and 7 ambulances to transport the wounded. In a statement, Hezbollah says its fighters targeted the Israeli soldiers directly, killing and wounding a number of them. Israeli media are describing the attack as a dangerous escalation. Zeina, more cross-border exchanges again between Israel and Lebanon.
Well, yes, this has been going on for 11 months now. Now, this may look like any other operation that we have seen in the past 11 months. Hezbollah firing an anti-tank missile, rockets, armed drones across the border. But Hezbollah really has been trying to minimize casualties. But to carry out such an attack that caused casualties can be seen as a message, especially because of the timing. Just hours before Hassan Nasrallah speaks, after these explosions, this attack on Hezbollah's communications network. Hezbollah wants to show its military capabilities. It wants to show that its command and control structure, the system, has not been disrupted or affected or impacted by what happened over the past 2 days. So Nasrallah is not only going to be sending a message to Israel, he is also going to be talking to his supporters who are, quite concerned and worried about these ongoing attacks by Israel. No doubt they are considered major blows. Even a Hezbollah official himself has said this was the biggest security breach the organization has suffered from since the start of this war. What does Israel want? Israel wants Hezbollah to stop firing across the border so that they can return residents to their homes. Hezbollah won't do that until Israel agrees to end its war on Gaza. So what Israel is trying to do is to de-link these fronts. If Hezbollah agrees to that, it will be seen as a surrender or some sort of a defeat. So it is unlikely to accept that. And the longer these confrontations continue, the riskier it becomes that it will widen and expand.
Zeina, thank you very much indeed. That's Zeina Khodr talking to us from Beirut. I want to bring in Elijah Magnier. He's a military and security analyst. He's joining us now from Brussels. Thanks very much indeed for being with us. The question, of course, that everybody's asking at the moment, does this bring us any closer to the biggest fear of all, which is an all-out conflict in the region here?
It is a possibility not to be excluded because the Israelis are gathering forces on the borders, and all these sabotage attacks in the last 48 hours would not bring back the settlers to their homes. This is why Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, who promised to find a solution for the settlers, that means this is a soft approach to say that there is going to be a war on the borders with Lebanon against the Lebanese. And the only thing we don't know yet is how he has the intention to carry out his operation and what would be his objectives, because if he has failed in a very small area in Gaza to achieve his declared objective to free all the prisoners and then to defeat Hamas, how he's going to bring back all the settlers to the Lebanese borders when he's talking about 8 and 9 kilometers buffer zone, that will certainly not stop the rockets and the middle and long range missiles of Hezbollah fired against these sectors.
I want to talk to you about the Israeli strategy of using exploding communications devices. This is essentially a strategy to somebody like me who doesn't understand these things, but it seems as though this is a strategy you could only use once. Now everybody is going to be very wary of using any sort of communications devices. Everybody's going to be checking their walkie-talkies and their cell phones and pagers and so on. What does Israel actually gain from this?
I think the Hezbollah Secretary General Said Nasrallah is going to come out and say specifically that the batch that arrived to Hezbollah and to other civilians, because we've seen yesterday batteries of the solar system exploding, because they all came with the same batch of batteries. And the problem are the batteries. But disabling the batteries or blowing up the batteries did not blow up the Hezbollah wireless system, and certainly not the wire system that 90% of Hezbollah communication system rely on. But the panic is always under the control of Said Nasrallah by revealing what's happening and exposing the reality behind it in details. It will indicate really where was the lack of security and the breach and how that has been dealt with. And that will inject tranquility, but this is not the end of it. People are waiting to know what would be his intention afterward and how he's going to retaliate. And certainly Hezbollah and Israel understand that the communication system of Hezbollah has certainly not been compromised by the sabotage attack, but it is part of what Benjamin Netanyahu likes to do, like he did in Hodeidah, burning the oil for several days. Well, it was a folkloric attack, but a big blow that caused thousands of injured and tens of fatalities.
So we're expecting to hear from Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in the next few hours or so, as we've been talking about. But previously, when there have been situations like this, Hezbollah has responded broadly in line with the nature, as they see it, of the attacks that have been inflicted upon them. Given the somewhat abstract, shall we say, way that this attack has been carried out, what are the options, do you think, that Hezbollah would have?
I think Hezbollah today needs to respond to two kinds of attacks. First, against this combatant that is ongoing since the 8th of October, because Hezbollah started the following day after the 7th of October's attack. And secondly, against the non-combatant and civilians, because the Israeli sabotage was indiscriminate against medical body personnel, civilians in their homes, solar system that owned by civilians, and it did not hit only the combatant. So this violation of the rules of engagement necessitate a similar response, and the intelligence attack will be responded by similar intelligence attack. That is the rule of the game. Nevertheless, Hezbollah needs to show that it has received a blow, it accepted. Hezbollah recognized the Israeli intelligence intelligent, and then will continue supporting Gaza and make sure that the attention is not diverted toward Lebanon, but again to the Palestinian cause. That is the center of the problem here and the war that Israel is waging against the Palestinian population.
Elijah Magnier is a military and security analyst, and we appreciate you, sir, being with us. Thank you very much indeed.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.